Welcome to This Week in Morgan County. I'm your host, Russell Mokhiber. Our guest this week is Jeanne Mozier. Jeanne, welcome back.
Thank you, Russell. Always good to be here.
Bypass coming through. You're against it. Why?
I've been against it for 20 years and nothing has changed. I have an entire list of why this bypass is a bad idea, starting with the fact that there has never been a traffic study done that establishes the need for the bypass. They have never talked to the people in Morgan County to say, do you want a bypass? They haven't even talked to our public officials to say, do you want a bypass? They being the Department of Highways. The Department of Highways. So, you know, they got all this money from the road bond. They went and pulled every plan off of their shelves that they've had for the past 20 years and said, okay, we're going to do all of this. And there we are, confronted with this bypass.
Now, it's going to be a $40 million bypass.
52.
It's up, okay, it's up 12 million. It's up $52 million. And the reason they give is because there's too much traffic in town. There's truck traffic. It's disturbing the town people. And this would actually improve the town.
Right, which is bogus.
And what about the traffic?
Well,
you by the way, you're in the Star Theater. You're with the Chamber of Commerce. You're president of the Chamber of Commerce. You're with Travel Berkeley Springs, and you're there all the time.
Yes.
What about, is it annoying to you?
No, and I think it's an urban legend that people mouth, and that no one has thought this through. They say, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have the trucks out of town? Let's have a bypass. And that's all the thought that has gone into it. And they don't understand how it will kill the town. And all of the disruption in the traffic patterns. And with the design of this bypass, which is so horrendous that even Charles Trump, when he finally looked at the map, said, oh, we can't have this.
I want to get into the design, but how will it kill the town and why will it kill the town?
Right now, for years, Travel Berkeley Springs has been collecting data on how people come to Berkeley Springs. And consistently, about 30% of them say the same words. Oh, we've been driving through your town for years and it's so cute and we decided this would be the time we would stop. 30%. So you take that 30% away to begin with. And then, I mean, who can afford to lose 30%? And then you've got people leaving town, moving to the bypass, maybe. So there's just no way. And people go, oh, well, you can put up signs. Uh-huh. And
I was talking with Angela, my wife, this morning about every time we come to take the business route or take the bypass, we take the bypass because we're going from we don't.
Right.
And you think that's what's going to happen here?
I think that's definitely what's going to happen, and it's certainly going to happen the way they've designed it.
Now, the powers that be are in favor of it. The powers that be being House Majority Leader Darrell Coles, State Senator Charles Trump, who you know well, you know both of them well. So what's the alignment of the power structure in Morgan County for or against this?
I think they claim to be for it till they actually look at the plan and suddenly figure out maybe this is not such a good idea.
And what is it about the plan? You said Charles didn't know. What didn't he know?
Right now, the way the plan is set up, this is a 4-mile bypass. I mean, 4 miles, really. What can you do in 4 miles? Both the southern entrance to the bypass and the northern entrance to the bypass is set up so they're closing access to the existing 522. Everyone, if you are coming from your house.
If you're coming from the south, from Cacapen State Park, and you're approaching the new sheets, you have to get onto the 4-laner. You can't go to the sheets north.
No.
How much of that are they closing off?
They're closing off, it looks like on the map, probably half a mile.
And then you'd have to get off of it again and get back on.
That's right. One of the 7 access points along a 4-mile bypass. It's like, what are you bypassing? You know, you've got 7 points.
And why did they design it that way? What's the reason? Did you get a reason?
No reason. I talked to one of the engineers at the meeting, and he said, oh yeah, 20 years ago I worked on this project, and then I went to Virginia and worked there for 20 years, and then retired, and now they've hired me back. Nobody has looked at this plan. Nobody came and did a traffic study or talked to the town or looked at the town. And this is 20 years ago, and we're still working on that same plan. So to go to DOH and say, why did you do this? They just look at you like, well, you know, they have...
What would you, if you were developing that way? Because I've been asking this question. Why would they put it that way, that you get off and they
claim it's safer. That's what they claim. Yeah. Now, that's absurd. If you think about bypasses, the thousands of bypasses you've probably been on, they all seem to go the same way. There's a Y. You know, you can stay on the main road or you can get off on the bypass.
They would call it Business 522.
Right, Business 522, and you would just keep going. And that would be fine. But they've decided that's not safe, that it's better to force everyone onto the bypass. And if you want to get off right away at 13, where Sheets is, you have to go through this convoluted, twisting, like cloverleaf of roads with 2 overpasses. Now, that's a pretty high price, you know, thing for no reason. And they claim it's safer because you don't want to have merging traffic.
But you don't even believe that, as you put it, that would be fine.
No.
If there was, you don't want this bypass.
I don't want this bypass. I think there are better uses for the money. I think it doesn't bring us anywhere, anything. I've never seen one piece of data that indicates that a 4-lane bypass of 4 miles with two-lane roads at either end and a bridge that's never going to be more than 2 lanes is going to bring us anything. And they seem to think, oh, well, there's like industry out there waiting for this bypass. Why? All the data, all the national studies say what you get along a bypass are big box stores, chain food stores, and gas stations.
And could it be that that's what they want?
I think, no. I think they don't think about reality. I think they haven't looked at the studies. And when I say that to them, they're like, oh, well, but blah, blah, blah.
What would you do?
I would take, so this is my alternative plan. Do the connector road, which we designed like 10 years ago, that would go from Fairview Drive to 522, make it easy for all the emergency vehicles to get to the hospital, have some developable economic land, and that's about a $6 to $8 million project, and then give us the rest of the money in Morgan County to fix every road in the county.
Give us the $45 million.
And let us spend it to fix the roads.
And
you spend it to fix the roads. And then everybody would be happy. They'd be happy in Paw Paw, they'd be happy in South Morgan, they'd be happy in Pleasant View. None of them are going to benefit from the bypass. But this way, if we fixed every road in the county, we would be in much better shape and we wouldn't kill our town. We've got a 300-year-old town that's world famous that, and I promise you this, no one at DOH has ever considered what this would do to the town. No one.
Because they haven't approached the chamber or traveled Berkeley Springs and said, "What do you think of this?" They didn't come with their proposal.
No.
So what drives the engine? I was at that meeting and I spoke to the head engineer also. What in your view, what's driving this project? Is it bureaucratic?
Money. They got this road bond. They're going to spend this money.
But why not spend it the way you want it spent?
Well, because they don't have original thoughts. They pulled the plan off the shelf, and the plan was the bypass.
Okay.
And so they're going to go with that. They never talked to anybody in the first place 20 years ago. They're certainly not going to do it now.
When this was around, when this flared 10 years ago, and there was opposition, 20 years ago, and there was significant opposition.
Yes.
And
it went away.
And it went away, maybe because of the opposition, but also maybe because the money wasn't there.
Money, yes. This money they got this road bond because, of course, as we know, West Virginians worship roads. Anybody tell them they're going to get a road and they're thrilled. So, you know, when they got this 1 point however billion dollars, it's burning a hole in their pocket. They got to spend it. That's the point. So here we are having this thing foisted on us, you know, and it's not just killing the town. Every one of these access roads is making it possible for 4-lane traffic to go onto roads like Johnson Mill Road or Myers Road. You know, these little wee roads that you barely drive on now to get to town, to get back to 522. It's going to destroy the neighborhoods. It's going to make it very unsafe. And I don't know if these people realize that if they're on the other side of the bypass on New Hope Road, they're going to have to cross 4 lanes of traffic every time they want to go into town.
You're one of the few voices saying, we don't need this, let's spend the money on something else. What we're hearing now this time is, well, this thing's a done deal. Let's have the best bypass we can have.
Well, I think, you know, at some point...
First of all, is it a done deal?
I don't think anything's a done deal till they start shoveling that dirt. And I think if people write their concerns, you know, and there are other concerns, there's no planning that has been done. No planning locally, no planning on the county level, no planning on the town level. Where are you going to get water for this so-called development that's going to happen? Where are you going to get sewer? You know, who's going to pay for increased emergency services? You know, all of these taxes are going to come from from us, and they go, oh, well, you know, there'll be all this economic growth, and it'll pay the taxes because we'll have a bigger tax base. Fantasy land, fantasy land. And, you know, they have no proposed buffer zones on either side of this road. They haven't come up with any plans to mitigate stormwater management, all of our streams, what's going to happen to our water.
Let's talk a little bit about the politics in town on this, because at the EDA, the last Economic Development Authority meeting, there seemed to be some tension because Darrell Coles, the House Majority Leader, was saying, well, this is a huge win for Morgan County. It's $52 million, and it's going to lead to economic development. But at the same time, the chair of the EDA, Larry Umps, whose family owns the Country Inn and has put a lot of money into developing the town, is expressed some real concerns.
Exactly.
And so what's your understanding of the split in town?
I think that Larry, of course, is grounded in reality. It's his business, and the Country Inn is part of that 30% of the people who drive by stay here. They don't want to lose 30%. And the Umpses are also developing Cool Fund. And what are you going to do? How are you going to get those people into town? Because you do want to bring them into town. And then we've got, yes, we're going to have $26 million going to develop Cape and State Park. And then what? You're going to have them come out and come up 522 and have to go through these clover leaves and figure out how they're going to get to town, which is what they want to do. Nobody has thought about this, Russell. They have not thought about it. And so we formed this task group.
Who's we?
The Chamber of Commerce convened it. And it includes reps from the county, the town, the chamber, the Arts Council, Travel Berkeley Springs, and environmental groups. And
it seems as if the tack is not your tack. No. Let's not do this. Let's spend the money on roads. But let's redesign this so that there's access on the old 522 from the north and the south. And I think the hope is that if you do that, you can push it back and hopefully delay it. Or is that the strategy?
I think that's the strategy of the general group. I think I'm a rogue player in it because as far as I'm concerned, there can be no good bypass. And, you know, it's like, it's a half a mile from town. This is not a bypass. And if what they wanted was a second road, they could just have built a second road and not gone through all this torture. And that's not even talking about the people whose lives are going to be ruined because suddenly there's a 4-lane bypass in the middle of their yard. And they haven't bought all the land yet.
They said, I think the engineer said 70%.
I think he's exaggerating.
I asked him to give me the documents, and he wouldn't give me the documents.
They don't have any, and they haven't even designed the northern end of this. So right now, if they built the bypass, we would have this bypass ending at Route 9.
And the other thing about this is, and you mentioned it hooks up back with a 2-lane 522,
yes.
But their plan in the future is to shoot a 4-laner all the way to the Virginia border.
100 years from now, maybe. I mean, they said clearly at that meeting that it was not being planned anyplace.
Now, there was an online poll that I think it was on Voices of Morgan County that actually showed that it's like even for and against the bypass, which surprised me because I thought when we talked last, you thought there would be overwhelming support for this. What do you think is going on there?
I think people are paying attention and looking at what the bypass means and actually thinking about it and saying, why are we doing this? You know, why? Why do we want to kill our town? What do we get out of this? And nobody can answer that question. You know, they can have these vague statements about, oh, well, you know, companies will want to come here. Why? Companies will want to come here if they can get natural gas and they can get really good broadband infrastructure and a good education system. That's what companies are looking for. And to say, oh, well, there's going to be this 4-lane bypass that goes 4 miles. Aren't you excited? I mean, that's absurd. They don't care about that.
And there is also a question of vision. What should Berkeley Springs look like? It seems, as in back to the fast food outlets, you know, the KFC, Mickey D's, Sheetz. Yeah. We already have the Sheetz. We already have the Mickey D's, but there could be a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Taco Bell, maybe a Walmart north of town, all of that.
Right.
There's a possibility of that.
Yes.
Does that vision appeal to you?
Not at all.
Does it appeal to the people of Morgan County?
I think it appeals to a certain portion of the people of Morgan County. And I don't think it's a majority. And I think every year it becomes fewer people who want to lose the fact that we are a unique place. You know, and again, we're
because KFC doesn't fit with the country inn. I'm sorry.
None of them do.
Right, they don't.
You know, it's like, really? Well, every time they ask people, what do you want to see here? They come up with all these stupid fast food restaurants, and we really want a Walmart because you can't buy shoes in downtown Berkeley Springs.
That's true, right?
And, well, actually, Jenna Hansroth now has shoes at her Inspired Chaos shop. But, yeah, how many shoes do you buy a year? And you can't go to Winchester, which is where everybody goes anyway, or Hagerstown or Martinsburg, all of which are 40 miles away. I mean, we have such a precious commodity here that we don't have all this stuff. And of course, they're closing, you know, these big box stores. There's not going to be a bricks and mortar retail operation left in 5 years.
All right, so in our last minute or so, fight is on over the bypass.
Yes.
What if people want to write to the Department of Highways? How much time do we have left?
They have till May 21st to write their concerns to the Department of Highways, whether it's concerns specifically about a particular design feature, or whether they want to say, take your bypass and shove it, or whether they say, oh, we love it. It doesn't matter. The 21st of May is the end time, and people need to make comments. The Department of Highways will respond to the comments.
And we will put up the contact information.
Good.
And you can write for or against, but we'll put up the contact information at the end of this video.
Right, and we, our task group, are working on template letters for people to say, here are the 10 points we think.
If people wanted to get those, what, Travel Berkeley Springs?
They'll probably be on I'm not sure. Maybe the Chamber's website.
But people know how to get in touch with
Right.
Jeanne Mozier.
Right.
And that's not
right.
hard. Go to the Star Theater, see a movie.
Right.
Thank
You
you.
can even come in and just get popcorn.
And popcorn. Thank you, Jeanne Mozier.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching This Week in Morgan County.